Hey, this is Eridos again. Well, I know this isn't my normal format, but there's a reason I'm using pictures over video this time. First off, there's a lot of info I have to go over, and doing this in a single take, especially this time of year, would be difficult. I'm also doing this over a script too, so that way I have all my information straight before I do this. Second, I still have to use pictures to convey some of the information I'm going over in this video. And finally, with the holidays here, my usual video shooting location is a total mess. Well, with all the decorations not completely set up yet. So please forgive the low quality presentation here. I use very basic video editing software if you haven't already guessed, so this is the best I can do. Well, we really need to get on to the subject of this video. This is going to be a vlog of a few of the Kickstarter projects, some currently ongoing, some currently going through or nearing the end of their production, and one I really need to rant about. We'll get into that a little bit later, but for now, let's get through this, starting with the two ongoing projects I want to highlight, and they will be ending, so yeah, let's get on with this. First, I'll bring up Way of the Fighter from Soda Pop Miniatures. Now, this Kickstarter has an interesting story behind it. You see, it was originally started back on November 9th of this year, but was canceled just about a week before it ended. The reason? Well, you see, the Kickstarter was not getting enough social media buzz because it chose a very bad time to start. That time being the tail end of the recent controversial elections, and which is still spewing toxin even now. So basically, all this stuff going on about the election, the Kickstarter was not getting enough traction, wasn't getting their word out like they were going to, and the fact that the Kickstarter would end right near the Black Friday holiday, which is one of the biggest shopping days of the year, they decided it was probably best for them to just cancel the initial Kickstarter and then restart it the Monday after Black Friday, as well as giving them a shorter 13-day deadline rather than the mere month they had before. Now, when the campaign restarted, I was worried. Sure, it might meet its funding, but I felt that given the stretch goals, they probably wouldn't make all their stretch goals. But after the first 3 days, it looks like we're almost up to the point where they originally had their stretch goals at, as well as adding more that seem very possible at this point in time. Now, as to what the game is, Way of the Fighter is a card game inspired by classic SNK and Capcom fighting games. Heck, even two of the characters look like they fit right into King of Fighters. The gameplay itself is basically you build a deck of cards with the character-specific cards representing their moves, as well as the other technique packs. And these technique packs can actually be swapped between characters, so you can actually pick and choose characters who have similar techniques, allowing you to give you a more customization to actually building your character decks. And of course, all these decks are the moves and tactics that your character will use in the game. There are actually two starter sets for this, one named Super and one named Turbo, which, yeah, I can hear you Capcom fans chuckling there in the background. And each set will come with 5 fighters, and all the card sets you're going to need to play. Now, I could go more into the gameplay details, but there's actually an easier way to explain this. There is a free download print-to-play version on their Kickstarter page, so you can actually look at this game yourself, read over the rules, and actually demo this yourself to see if this is a game you really want to back. Now, as I said, there's 2 sets, Super and Turbo, with 5 different characters each. They'll also have a board and cardstock standees to represent the characters and the health meter, and they will also be making miniatures for each of those characters as well, which will be available separately. Now, Soda Pop Miniatures is actually a pretty good miniatures company. I mean, they've released Relic Knights, they released Super Dungeon Explorer, which is just one of my favorite tabletop games. And they're also working on Rail Raiders, which also finished a Kickstarter recently. And they also have Ninja All-Stars. Rail Raiders and Ninja All-Stars are also the chibi games, much like Super Dungeon Explorer. And we'll talk more about Super Dungeon Explorer later on in the video. Now, this game isn't as quick to pick up and play like another one of my favorite games, Lost Worlds, which, if you watch my channel, you've seen me review Lost World books before. It's a really quick game to pick up and play. But this game more has the style and flair and nuance of the actual video game fighting games that you all well know. Again, Soda Pop Miniatures has done a lot of quality before. Now, as of this recording, or at least when I was typing the script for this, there's only 10 days left of this Kickstarter. So if you're a fan of anime-style games, if you're a fan of fighting games, or if you're a fan of Soda Pop Miniatures, I highly recommend you go check this Kickstarter out. Now then, moving on, we're going to talk about another really good quality miniature maker, and that's the Kingdom Death series. Now then, I really enjoyed Kingdom Death. Their miniatures are really good quality. The monsters are grotesque. They look like something come out of Dark Souls. Kingdom of Death Monster, I actually backed the Kickstarter for that. Back when it ended in 2013, I actually brought the game to conventions. I had good runs with it. And, of course, the game's like a combination between XCOM's management and resource building and trying to keep all your characters alive, which is really hard, as well as the hunting, gathering, and crafting of Monster Hunter. Now, this game, despite its extremely high price point after the Kickstarter, because the Kickstarter was really cheap compared to how much it is now, and I say now because the game is sold out. Even at their really high price point, where they put it out to retail, the game sold out. Hence why we have this Kickstarter now. They're basically doing a Kickstarter to reprint the game with a new rulebook. They're doing a 1.5 edition rules. And of course, people who backed the previous Kickstarter can get this 1.5 rules, as well as all of the additions that will be added, because they're releasing new rule mechanics, they're releasing new miniatures, they're releasing basically all sorts of new stuff for the 1.5 edition, as well as new expansions, and of course new pinup miniatures, which is one of the things they're famous for. And they're also going to be doing male pinups for all you female fans out there. And trust me, if you like scantily clad men, you female fans are going to love those guys. Now then, there's also a gambler's chest that they have, which is just this little package of items that they're going to be giving out to Kickstarters who get the gambler's chest. The gambler's chest is basically a random table where they roll a D100, and whatever they roll every day they roll this table will actually determine what content they'll add that day to the gambler's chest. So you will not know what's in the gambler's chest until the end of the Kickstarter. I mean, yes, you'll know every day each item they're adding, but at the end you won't know all the contents until the last day. Now, the original Kickstarter for Kingdom Death Monster ended in 2013 with just over $2 million. And that's where it ended at. This one, as of this recording, only a few days after the Kickstarter started, is now just over $6 million. That's right. It raised 3 times the amount of the original within only a few days, and it's giving itself until the first week of January to end. So basically, there's no doubt in my mind that this is just going to be an astounding amount that it will raise for this. But I want to see this do something a little bit more particular. I don't want to see this just be the most funded tabletop game. I want to see this the most funded Kickstarter, period. I don't know how high it has to get, but from what I've seen, it could probably just about happen that it could break every Kickstarter record for funding. Seriously, you guys have to check out this Kickstarter, not just for the awesome miniatures and great great gameplay, but just to see how far this project is going to go. And again, I really love Kingdom Death. I love how these miniatures are sculpted. I really enjoyed the gameplay. The Dragon King is my absolute favorite, and they are announcing they will be reprinting him through the Kickstarter too. So if you missed out on this, this is probably going to be your only chance to get it at a cheaper price than the full retail. Now then, we're going to move on to projects that are ongoing to the ones that are nearing their fulfillment. Starting with one Kickstarter that looks like it's almost done. Now then, I'm not going to cover every Kickstarter I've backed, but the ones that have noticeable news that I can report on at this time. Like, for example, Star Mazer and Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. I don't really think I have much I can report on those fronts. Or Siege of the Citadel. That's kind of waiting to see if they have any new news for that yet. So first off, we're going to talk about Shantae Half Genie Hero. Now, since I played Risty's Revenge, I really enjoyed the Shantae series, and I have high hopes for this game in particular, since it's going to be the first HD release on major consoles rather than just being a handheld game. Well, they just announced, just recently, that the game will be releasing this month in December. That's right, they just got approval for the game from Microsoft, Sony, and Valve for the game's digital distribution, which means it's just right around the corner. In fact, those who had the early access demo will now have the early access game. Again, it's not the full game, and again, I'm going to have to wait as well as many others for the full release, since I did not go for the early access. But again, those who have early access will get the first, are playing it right now, and we will be getting it very shortly, it looks like. It's not. I'm pretty sure this will not be as disappointing as a certain other game project that was brought about in Kickstarter at the same time, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you already know what I'm talking about, and yeah, let's not talk about that particular robot. Next, we have a trio of game projects from Jap Anime Games. I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. All of them were updated within minutes of each other. First, El Amin, which is a deck-building game based on the African campaign in World War II. After several production delays, especially with the Ammo Box edition, it's finally being shipped from their factory, which will probably take about a week or two to get to their their warehouses to distribute to the Kickstarter backers. Maybe not until the end of 2016, early 2017, but the light is at the end of the tunnel after so many delays, and it's looking really good that this game is going to get in our hands. Same can also be said for the Tenokure International Editions, which was a reprinting of Tenokure in different languages other than Japanese and English. It's also looking like it's reaching its end. They're still waiting for the master print copies. At least that's what I think what MPC means, the NPCs. But once they check out and approve those, printing will begin on that, and then we'll be getting those bonus cards for those who already own the game in English. The promotion cards will be sent out by February, they're promising, at least for that. And since they're just reprinting existing cards for this, it's not going to have a huge production delay, for at least what they're saying anyway. And then there's Dynamite Nurse, which is currently getting samples for some of its components and waiting on the digital proofs for the cards in the game. The Pledge Manager has not been sent out yet, and they don't have an ET on that either. But it seems like they were trying to get their ducks in a row before they get the Pledge Manager out, since, again, with El Amin, with previous Tenokures, they've had some problems with production, having to resubmit proofs to the factory, sending back test samples for not meeting their quality standards. Again, this is something that's happened in one way, shape, or form in their previous Kickstarters, and it looks like they're trying to make sure that everything's in order before they get the Pledge Manager out so they can get this out as quickly as possible. Now, heading back to Soda Pop Miniatures for a second, we're going to take a look at their Super Dungeon Legends, which I was a late backer on. So again, I don't have an emails of their project progression. I have to actually go on the Kickstarter page to read all this. The Pledge Manager and the Late Pledge program will be closing at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time on December 2nd, Friday, which I believe will be the time I'll be submitting this to YouTube. So basically, by the time you watch this, there will be only like a few hours left to get those pledges and those late pledge orders in. Closing of a Pledge Manager usually means they're about to submit an order to the factory for production, meaning that the Wave 1 shipments will probably be coming soon. Now, when I say coming soon, that may mean like a month or two, maybe February at the... I want to say February would be the most ideal at this point because they have to split the game into 2 waves of shipment. The first one being the second edition game box, some of the levels, warbands, and some, if not most, of the individual character miniatures, with Wave 2 consisting of stuff they couldn't ship out in Wave 1, as well as Super Dungeon Legends, which is the campaign expansion for Super Dungeon Explorer. And of course, the very first thing that will be sent out will be the PDF rulebooks, when basically the PDF rulebooks will be sent out to the backers as soon as they send those out to the factory for main printing. And again, we don't know how long it's going to take for this, but again, it is looking like it's going to get really close to the end, and one of the PDFs is already on its way. They announced that the painting guide will be emailed out to backers very soon, and there will also be a print version available for it for a special collaboration they're doing with the Army Painter, which will be a painting set that will include a first edition Claw Tribe Barbarian and all the paints you'll need to paint her, which will be out in January. And with this release, the Kickstarters, Super Dungeon Arena also just recently got its announcement for a release in January. It looks like Super Dungeon Explorer will be a huge release this year. A lot of releases for the Super Dungeon series, especially with the video game version, Super Dungeon Tactics, releasing December 14th of this year. And now we move from a project that I was excited about to a project that I now regret. This has been a few years ago. I think like 2013, I think. Yeah, it's been a long time. I backed this project called Kaiju Combat. The game was promising, and it was saying it would be like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, having at least some of the people who used to work on that for Atari. It will have original kaiju designs, a free-to-play starter game based on Kaiju Land, and then the possibility of making other games from other kaiju licenses like Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, Zonefire. They were even promising they'd try to get Stay Puft Marshmallow Man for some reason, and basically let you piece together your own big game by taking all these sets and making them act like expansions. Now, I really was excited for this project. I backed it, but then it had to be rebranded as Colossal Kaiju Combat because Wizard of the Coast was getting after them for using the term kaiju because they had that one trading card game that had a similar name, and I think they were trying to trademark the word kaiju, and they just took the easy way out, just renaming Colossal Kaiju Combat. It's kind of convoluted, and that was just years ago. But still, after they had the name change and their Kickstarter page was deactivated because of this deal with Wizard of the Coast, but it still looked like the game was in production. It still looked like it was going forward. It was just a hiccup. But the actual project, the problems were coming slowly over time still. Their official newsletter slowly stopped becoming about the development of the game and more about the monsters that we could vote on to get in the game, which were all fan-submitted. Initially, I thought that sending out the newsletter was because the Kickstarter page was temporarily deactivated. It turns out that wasn't the case, but I'm really not sure what the reason is. I think they said it was because they were sending out the newsletter instead of putting updates to the Kickstarter because there was so many other people who wanted updates to the game, know about the game. But I'm not even sure anymore. And that's the kind of problem with this. I had no idea what was going on with the game anymore. All their news for the game, all the development news, was posted on their forums. And I dropped out of the forums a few weeks after joining, just losing interest, just not being able to keep up with so many forums and sites that I had to keep track of passwords and whatnot. And the newsletter even said my Kickstarter account was not associated with a forum account after a while. And I'm pretty sure that's because my account was deactivated just because I wasn't active on their forums for so long that they just deactivated my account. Then came the alpha build of Kaiju Land Battles. And this was, remember, they said this was supposed to be a free-to-play game. And they released the alpha for this, and I was really disappointed with the alpha. The controls were just garbage. The arenas were barren. There was no buildings. I mean, seriously, half the fun is picking up a building and throwing it at someone or something like that. It's also a good cover for some of the moves that you can use, especially when they remove blocking from what I heard. But I'll get into more what I've heard later. I'm going to talk about my experience with it. I also noticed the AI was cheap as hell. After playing this for like 10 minutes, and I'm seriously, 10 minutes, that's what it says on my Steam account. I only played this for 10 minutes. I just stopped playing it, and I just left it alone. And then, in fact, I just eventually just uninstalled the game altogether. Now then, this was an alpha build, so I was willing to admit that maybe this was unfinished and it will be fixed until I found out the game, which they said was free to play. Remember, I've stressed enough times. They said this was supposed to be free to play. This was being sold as an early access game for $4.99. That was my first red flag that there was something seriously amiss with this project. Sure, I got the game for free. All the other Kickstarter backers got it for free, but everyone who didn't back the Kickstarter would have to pay like $5 to play this broken alpha. Even Jim Sterling would probably have to say something about that. Anyway, there was even more stuff that was going on about this, but again, this was all stuff I couldn't really read into because I was only getting news through the newsletters, which was more and more about the voting. And through the Kickstarter, I had a $5 credit to their store. There was nothing worth buying on there. The only thing they really had were trading cards for a trading card game they were releasing. A few of the 3D printed figures, which, again, I am not really interested in those because a lot of those were like over $100, so they were like huge art figures that not really my thing. And of course the PDF for Project Nemesis, which was the novel they released, but I already got that through the Kickstarter, so there was no reason for me to buy it through their store. After a while, I just fell away from the project and nearly just about forgot about it. Up until a few weeks ago, I got a Kickstarter notice. The very first Kickstarter notice ever since their Kickstarter was deactivated because of the Wizard of the Coast thing. I also noticed that the Kickstarter was that the game was rebranded again as Fall of Nemesis Clash of Kaijujin. The Kickstarter message basically said they were holding a town meeting to discuss what will be happening to the brand of Colossal Kaiju Combat. I looked at the newsletter they released at the same time, and it said the production of the game has been suspended since spring of this year. Yes, you heard me right. The game has been suspended. I went out looking for any sort of news as to what's been going on, since I've obviously been missing a lot. And then I found a video by Kaiju Noir, which went over everything that's been happening, and none of it was good. And then I'll link to the video in the description. In fact, I probably should have mentioned that I'll be linking links to the Kickstarters in the description. But again, anyway, here's the facts I got from Kaiju Noir's video. I'm going to just gloss over a lot of details, but I'm just going to go over the basics. Basically, the game's development was declining, focusing more on getting fan-made monsters in the game, which were basically being brought in by fans, and the contract given to these people submitting their monster designs was vague enough that they were essentially signing over all the rights to that character, and they wouldn't be allowed. It was very convoluted, and again, you're going to have to watch Kaiju Noir's video because they go over it in more detail about what this contract was like for people who are submitting designs. And there was also this very large focus over that trading card game, which, again, a lot of the people who are part of the Kickstarter, again, I'm getting this information from Kaiju Noir's video, a lot of people weren't really interested in this trading card game. And again, a lot of the Kickstarter backers, from what I understand, have dropped out of the forums, and the only people on there are people who are basically just following the project now, just hearing about it through word of mouth, and they're getting the same rights as we Kickstarter backers do by buying founder packs. So yeah, now being a Kickstarter backer doesn't really give us any special privileges anymore. People can just buy it for like 10, 20, even $100 for these founder packs they're releasing for the game, which, from what I'm understanding, isn't really worth much anymore. And then there's the character voting. Oh boy, wait until you hear this. The character voting was basically based by people buying votes. Yeah, you literally have to pay them like $1 or something to vote on your monster. And then once your monster was voted on, it basically gets turned into a card. And then those cards are once again voted on to see who becomes a character in the game. Kind of sounds convoluted, doesn't it? There's a lot more that can be said about what's been going on, but seriously, you have to watch Kaiju Noir's like 2-hour video on this in order to understand what's been going on and all the stuff that's been happening. I've just been trying to cliff note everything about this video. Now then, as for this town meeting they were doing, this live stream, they were basically trying to address all the concerns and questions people were having. I could not watch this because the time the stream was going on, I had things that were going on that kept me away from my computer, so I couldn't watch it. And I can't watch the playback of it because you need an account on the live stream website in order to even watch it, and I'm not making another account just to watch one damn video. People are comparing this to Mighty Number 9. It's not because at least it's not like Mighty Number 9. Because at least Mighty Number 9 got a retail release. This didn't. All we have is a broken early access alpha of a game that was supposed to be free to play to begin with. Not the main game we were promised. And yeah, that early access alpha hasn't been patched in over a year. There has been no development in that alpha in over a year. They might as well just abandon that too. So I can see comparisons between Mighty Number 9 and this project because we were being sold on a game based on concept alone. We were not being shown gameplay footage or anything. We were being sold on a concept, not a full feature game. And now with the aftermath of Mighty Number 9, such projects like these are under tighter scrutiny, and this game is not helping that scrutiny. In fact, it's probably going to make that scrutiny even more fine. I feel ashamed to have backed this project now, and I'm sure others do too. I just want to put this project in its grave, give its eulogy, shovel the dirt over it, and move on. This project was a disaster, and I really just want to forget about it. Well, that's the end of my rant, and the end of this vlog on Kickstarter projects. Again, I'll link to the description to the current ongoing projects I mentioned at the beginning, and Kaiju Noir's video about the mess that is Kaiju Combat. If you can last for over 2 hours, it goes over a lot of information that you're going to need to know. Anyway, this is Arados signing off, and I hope to see you again some other time, probably under better circumstances. Bye.